everybody. Welcome to the show.
Welcome indeed. I'm Greg and this is John, and welcome to Oz by Drone.
Here we are again for another big week.
We've got another big week indeed. Apologies for John's internet today. It's a little bit bad at his end today, not mine. My internet's actually working quite well. So you might see his face freeze up from time to time, but from what I've seen, the audio seems to continue. You can't shut him up, but he's not very animated today.
I never stop talking, but look, I can talk without my mouth moving.
Yeah. So just at the head of the show, a couple of things. What's been happening in your world this week, John? What's happening?
I've been doing some more flying. Also, been planning a little bit about how much money I've been paying to CASA and not looking forward to paying more for drone registration, which is still around the corner. They've pushed it back, but just as an idea, I've just spent $3,500 this last week for an EVLOS application, just to look at application and process it, and then a renewal, which if I didn't do at the same time, I'd have to pay again. So yeah, I'm having to work pretty hard to keep up with the licensing at the moment, and as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about that this week and about the costs of operating. What the costs are going to be for recreational pilots to operate in, particularly in Australia.
So $3,500.
I'd really love to hear the comments.
$3,500 just on paperwork. It's
Yep, and since we started the company, we've over $10,000 now just in paperwork.
Yeah. The price of bureaucracy. So what have I been doing this week? A couple of things. I've been trying to get the multi-streaming things working today. So if people are watching on some of the other platforms, we're not monitoring the chat in the other platforms. So chat is only going to be looked at in YouTube. In the future, we'll work out how to do that. But today, as well as being on YouTube, we are also on, we're on Periscope, we're on Twitch, DLive, Smashcast, and Mixer. We were going to be on Facebook, but unfortunately, Facebook didn't work. So this is our first full month. There we go. Hopefully, it's re-established to all of those platforms. Could people let me know if YouTube re-established in the background? Because doing multi-streaming is a little bit different, so just need to make sure it's up again. Anyway, what's been happening other than multi-streaming is cuckoo. I've been in cuckoo land all week, fixing a cuckoo clock that was in my parents' kitchen, and it's been neglected and sitting at my sister's house, but I've been doing some mechanical clock repairs and having fun with that and nearly got it working. I'll share a video once it's fully working, but that's been a little bit of fun. But something in the drone and aviation world this week, there's a report that's come out from the ICAO or ICAO, as it's, the common way of saying it. John, what's this report about? ICAO are telling us that
in the future they believe there could be a lot of unmanned aerial vehicles in the sky, and something needs to be done. There we go. ICAO is the UN, if you like, of the aviation world. Look, it was a great idea. The UN is a great idea too. They have 155 member countries. And all those countries subscribe to meet all the time and create, if you like, a platform, a global platform. Again, it's an idea of globalization that is so slow in it, because they've got to have every country sign up to it, or once one country says no, we're not signing up to that, well, the ideas failed. That what was interesting about the document, which is 3 pages long and doesn't say much really, is that they didn't mention things like JARIS and SORA, the Joint Regulators Forum, where we've already got over 50 countries in JARIS that are working on a UTM. That's what it's about, as an unmanned traffic management system. And also SORA, which is a special operations risk assessment, which JARIS is working on. So there are really, really smart people in these organisations that will probably eventually go to the ICAO and say, look, here is the best practice for unmanned aerial vehicle traffic management in the future globally. And we think ICAO should adopt it. And ICAO will take forever to go through it, and some countries will say yes and no. But I think the rapid change in density of unmanned aerial vehicles operating worldwide will force these countries to do something. And you're going to have third world countries that are going to say, yeah, we'll take anything. We need this technology. This is an affordable technology that helps us in incredible ways. So we'll just wait and see. A lot of people, overpaid people in those positions, like the UN, have to make important decisions, and then they have probably to go back to their country and the regulator, and it's a slow process, man. But I just laughed at the letter because it would have been nice for ICAO in their document to sort of say, look, here's where we're at so far. Actually, a lot of people have put a lot of effort into JARUS and SORA, and that needs to be acknowledged. So if you're interested in having a look at that, JARUS, the website,
JARUS.
That's what I'm thinking, JARUS. Is an easy look at. It's easy. A lot of great stuff there that's easy to read for the layman. If you really want to see where the world is in status of legislation in the future of unmanned aerial vehicles, that's the place to go, JARUS.
Okay. John, I'll just share with you, your audio is really bad today. So
okay.
try and keep the conversation short and sharp. That way we don't lose too many viewers.
I will.
Okay, so let's get on with the next part of the show. It's time for the news. Pardon me. And first off the bat today, our first story is everyone's been talking about it, the Mavic Mini. So DJI has been relatively quiet on the drone front since the announcement of the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic 2 Zoom last year. That might be about to change with FCC filings for something called the Mavic Mini having been made public. Now, I want to quickly chat about a few aspects of this one. First of all, the actual frequencies that it's using. And then once we talk about the frequencies, John, you wanted to talk a little bit about the sub 250. So the frequencies, first of all, and let's just put the FCC ruling up just for a minute, just to share with people if they want to have a look at that. There we go. So the frequencies that it's apparently using, from what people have been hearing on the grapevine, are definitely Wi-Fi based. So we're not looking at OcuSync or anything like that. It's just plain old Wi-Fi from what we can tell so far. And that kind of concerns me a little bit. Like, we're looking at these days where we've got the Skydio as the next generation drone in the marketplace. And instead of doing something that's not using the Wi-Fi band with, better range and suited to the drone industry, we've got more Wi-Fi drones. It just doesn't feel like a Mavic class drone to me. To me, I think it's more like a Tello Max. Your thoughts, John?
Absolutely, yep. And I think that there has been an agreement to contain the aircraft inside regulatory framework at 250 grams. So unregistered in countries that need to pay registration. So the range, the big thing here is visual line of sight. Obviously, you only need OcuSync if you want to fire beyond visual line of sight. We're honest here. That's what we want it for. There will be people that say I need it for penetration in terms of trees and houses and so forth. But of course, if you're flying through those things, you can't see the aircraft either.
I'll tell you what, John, this audio is really, really bad today. I'll tell you what we might do. I'm going to totally mix things up. I'm going to go to our guest for a little while.
Yep.
I'll challenge you to see if you can reposition somewhere that's going to give you better internet, and we'll see how we go, because it's just it's too hard to hear what you're saying today.
I'll try a super quick one just before you go.
Mm-hmm. So while he's there, we've got Brett from Victorian Aerial Vision today. So let's see if we can. Yeah, John's totally frozen there. Absolutely nothing left. So let's just go to our guest. And I don't believe it. Oh, no, I thought you'd frozen there. I'm sitting watching your face.
No, I didn't freeze.
Okay.
No, not my end this time.
Okay,
How
so
we going, Brett?
We'll leave John to sort itself out. Brett, thank you for coming to join us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your drone journey. When did you start flying, and how did it all come about?
I started flying drones probably about 3 years ago, starting with toy models like most of us did. And then probably a year after that, moved on to camera drones. First one was an old XK X380 with a GoPro strapped underneath. But now I'm using a Mavic Pro, so getting a bit better with the aerial shots.
Okay. I'll just say to my producer in the background, click disconnect on John's shot, because otherwise he won't be able to dial back in. So what's some of the more interesting things that you've done in your filming and shooting to date?
I tend to mostly go over water and coastlines and that, but in the last few videos I've done, I've been able to catch a few animals, as in a whale, goanna, a few wallabies. But the reason I fly over coastlines and water is I find it's easier not to bother people that way. You know, you're not got crowds of people around that you need to worry about flying over the top of.
Yeah. And certainly in my case, I live in right next to a river, so certainly I enjoy that as well, being able to just fly over the water and not be as concerned about where you can and can't fly.
That's right.
We've got some video footage of yours, which is your show reel. Let's just put that up in the background and we'll have a chat. Not that one, video 2. Video number 2. We've skipped way ahead. There we go. So tell me about some of the places you're filming here.
A lot of these are all in the East Gippsland area, because that's where I live. I did a little bit up in southern New South Wales where my brother lives, which is where my later ones are. Yeah, and you see most of them around water. Luckily, I'm not scared about dropping the drone in the water.
Yeah, have you seen those little flotation devices? Not so much something that'll float the drone, but it'll at least send a little floaty up in case it goes under?
No, I haven't, but I don't know. I looked at the floaties and I thought, it's probably going to tip over anyway. So
no, this is a different one. It's originally designed for fishermen for their fishing rods if they get lost overboard, the rod's going to come up. I'll get one out of the box in a couple of minutes and we'll have a look at that. But yeah, it's a useful device. Not going to save your drone from getting wet, but it's certainly going to allow you to get
ground, isn't it?
Allow you to get it back. And for insurance purposes, DJI Care or whatever, you can at least say, well, here it is. Please replace that under your policy. So a really useful device, about $20. So you've been flying for a couple of years. What are some of the favourite places you fly?
I would say probably where my brother is at southern New South Wales. I got some really good shots along that coastline there, and that's where I got the whale and the goanna and the wallabies. But the coastline there is particularly rugged, and it just, I think, makes a good video. One thing too, I was just going to say, I need to give a shout out to Greg Hilton, because he was the reason I've come here to start with. He nominated one of my videos for your Explore Australia. And until that, I had no idea you existed.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually mentioned that. Greg Hilton does some great things each and every week, putting those videos together and compiling it. And yeah, it's good to recognise him, absolutely.
And I've subbed to his channel, so now I get a preview of Explore Australia before you actually put it on. So he's got some good stuff coming up, I tell you. Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely. We got some good stuff today. Pardon me, I'm trying to stop myself from coughing today. I've just got one of those things in my throat.
Yeah, no worries. The other thing is I'm still learning, like I guess a lot of us are, and I use the YouTube channels a lot to help me out. And one I use a lot, which I don't know, but you mind me shouting out to another channel, is Drone Film Guide. They do a special on various Hollywood shots. And
before, with a lot of them, but that one is new to me. I'm just looking it up now. I'll post the link of that in the chat in case anyone wants to have a look at that in a couple of moments.
Yeah.
So, look, what's your plans for droning in the future? You've got how many drones now?
9.
9?
But most of them are toy ones, I've got to say. I'm just starting to get into...
Can you name them all?
Yes, I can, I think. I've I've got 2 mini whoops, a what do they call, a SEMA X5C clone.
Mm-hmm.
I have a X8 clone. I've got a my XK380 still going.
Mm-hmm.
A Me drone, which I managed to park into a tree, and it's never been the same since. And of course, the Mavic. I think that was all of them.
Okay.
Well, it was okay when it parked in a tree. It's when it came down was when it did the damage.
So with all of that fleet, do you do some of it in the full FPV acro mode, or is it mostly stabilised flight you're doing?
I'm just starting on stabilised flight, and I'm even finding that hard enough. I tell you, it's not easy. I don't know how those guys do it.
Yeah.
They're just insane reflexes, I think. I'm getting a bit old for it.
So what are your next plans drone flying wise? Are you sticking with the Mavic? You know, what kind of filming are you planning going forward?
Well, I will stick with the Mavic because it's done really well for me so far. But I'm just going to keep seeing more of Australia and try and film more of it. I probably want to get a bit more inland to make a change from the coastlines. But yeah, just more of Australia is really my plans for now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, normally at this time, we're meant to have more of the news, but John hasn't come back. So his internet has totally died on us today. So, here we go. He's finally coming back. We'll get him re-added into the dashboard. So in a couple of moments, we'll continue with the news. And thank you very much for sharing a little bit of that with us. And certainly I'd love you to stick around and have a chat with us a little bit as the show goes on. But let's get back into the news a little bit. John, are you there? Hello, Earth to John.
I can hear him.
Okay, we just got to re-add him back into the shots. So the wonders of technology. So while we're waiting for him to come back into the shots, I'll quickly talk about what is our next news story. We're going to talk about dengue treatment, and in particular, dengue in Singapore. So we'll wait for that. Is you there back yet, John? No, I'll let my missus go and continue with that. But I'll talk about the third phase of field study of Singapore's stealth weapon against dengue has been a success, achieving 90% suppression of the urban mosquito population at the test sites, paving the way for an expanded fourth phase study next month. This will involve the release of mosquitoes via drones, said National Environment Agency in Singapore. The program uses the release of male mosquitoes carrying the Wolbachia bacterium, and they're then mating with females, causing them to lay eggs that don't hatch. Have you heard about the use of drones, John, for mosquito control?
I haven't actually. I've heard of them being likened to mosquitoes, but not used for mosquito control. Makes good sense, though. Really, we're going to look at all sorts of ultra low volume spraying and so forth in terms of control. Eventually, there's so much application. We all know that, but that's a great idea. And also, does this do collection as well? Is it collecting the actual insects?
No, it's not collecting. It's just going and spreading. And this is what I think is interesting. It's spreading the insects into wider areas, which are infected with this bacterium, so that the females then mate with them, lay eggs. The eggs are useless. Yep,
that's good. Look, an obvious one too is I worked with Richard Hopkinson up in the tablelands, and he was doing some species stuff as well, all sorts of tracking of tree kangaroos. But of course, a good one for insects is easy. You can have a trap box, and this is a remarkable way of an easy way of collecting insects in a trap box compared to the old ways of doing it. And that's a good way to monitor the insect, not just in terms of their health and population and where they are. But of course, you can carry it on the one aircraft. You can carry a control, and you can also carry a collection a box as well. So it's going to see more of that. Good on it. It's great idea.
Okay, we're moving on from that story into something that's a little bit thick. And if you have a look at this picture, it looks like a mosquito stinger on a drone. But it's not. Tritex NDT has developed a drone dedicated to carrying its recently launched thickness gauge. Designers say that remaining metal thickness and corrosion levels can be quickly and more easily checked without the need for scaffolding or rope access. And it looks like a mosquito stinger on a drone, but unusual application. Have you heard of that one?
Fuel drogue. Yeah, that's great. Wonder how big that is. I can't really tell. Is there any scale of the aircraft itself?
Can you just put the aircraft back on the screen to my producer there? We'll put that shot back up, the full screen one. There we go.
Just trying to see the motors or props in. It's not big, is it?
I think it's a similar size to, a Mavic Pro, from what I gather.
Look at the GPS aerial prop hubs. Oh, it's it's an 8, so it's got plenty of grunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Well, it looks, but I've not seen that aircraft before, so it's either something they've put together. If anyone,
they've actually done it themselves. They've actually designed the aircraft specifically to go with their probe. So people doing work in engineering, they can go and use that probe to go and measure the thickness and the corrosion on metal structures, on bridges, and so forth.
Now look at the design of that though. That's not an X8. That's a H8. Design, which looks interesting as well. I'm gonna have a look at that, and maybe later another show we could comment on that design. That looks really, really good.
Yeah. Our next one today is aviation startup Kitty Hawk, which is backed by Google co-founder Larry Page, has unveiled its third electric aircraft. The Heaviside, or HVSD, is roughly 100 times quieter than a helicopter, and it can travel 55 miles in around 15 minutes.
Project Heaviside is Kitty Hawk's latest electric VTOL vehicle. It is fast, small, and exceedingly quiet. Heaviside is 100 times quieter than a regular helicopter.
Interesting looking aircraft.
Yeah, very much so.
Introducing Heaviside. We're building the future without adding in the noise.
Really nice piece of aviation equipment there. Certainly, I think the VTOL aircraft and certainly the transitionary type aircraft is where it's going to be in the future. We've done all we pretty much can do with your traditional quads for the moment.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, in terms of going 55 miles and so forth. Kitty Hawk are an interesting company. They had some pretty big venture capital poured in. At some stage, they're well back. They just also acquired Horizon, which was another technology company that was working with panoramic images and so forth. You may remember the Horizon app. Kitty Hawk bought them up. They've also acquired a number of other assets and companies, and they're sort of a bit of a meeting house now for new technologies, and very good visionary way of doing it, getting all of the smaller companies that do well what they do well, and obviously if you're going to move forward here, you need a composite aircraft company, something can build composite aircraft and good multi-rotor technology, everything piled in together. So that'd be one to watch. Kitty Hawk will be a player for sure.
I'm just going to go to Brett for a minute. Brett, have you played with any fixed wing aircraft first of all yourself, or have you been mainly in the quad space?
No, I'm only in quads. I tried helicopters very early, spent around $300 and promptly smashed into the side of my garage. That was the end of that.
Okay. Have you got any plans for that for the future yourself?
Nah, not really. I'm happy with the quads. I think I'll stick with those. I find it a bit easier to control.
Yeah, and certainly one of my earliest memories, John, of when we were mates, and the famous story of you saying, I've got all of this money and I'm just going to throw it off the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, that was F3B gliding. Oh, look, it is the same thing. If you come from a radio control model background, it's a kind of another world, a bottomless pit of fun. And although it's a lot cheaper these days than it used to be, for sure, a lot of time, and you'd spend the whole winter building an aircraft, and then you had to do its maiden flight, which it often wouldn't survive. Even and after a while, you give it to someone who's quite competent pilot, and they'll test flight for you. But quad a fixed wing aeroplane can crash very much.
Okay.
So.
Okay. By the way, Lloyd in the background, I don't know if the chat's having problems. I gathered from a message I received from you it was. I just restarted that firewall thing, so give that another go. In the meantime, let's move on to our next story. Cleaning drones. So cleaning a drone is an important thing, but using a drone from cleaning is a little bit different. Fast setup and minimal equipment relocation enables these workers to clean more in less time, and keeping workers on the ground reduces risks from working at height. A really cool use of drones. Have you seen this before?
No, I haven't seen that one. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, if we wait long enough, this video, you can actually see a comparison between the two.
He's just washing the wall down. Yeah.
He's just washing the wall down, yeah. But this company has got certainly other different products, and they've got some great video footage of doing different types of buildings, not just walls that are, leaching like that. But by the way, all of the content today, as always, we have links in the description for the video so you can check it out. But let's move on to our next story. And this kind of links into the 350 gram topic we were talking about before, about legal aspects of drones. So this one's in the US. A member of the Ohio House of Representatives is proposing a law that would ban packages from being delivered by drones in Ohio. The bill is sponsored by Thomas Patton and calling drone delivery a potential safety hazard because packages can be accidentally dropped onto pets or children. And then the second part of the story, in the Philippines, Senator Aquilino Pimentel III is pushing for laws which seek to regulate the ownership and operation of drones in the Philippines. The senator is concerned that drones might be exploited by terrorists, used to violate rights, or could pose a hazard to aircraft. Now, I'm just going to pause. We got one more story in a sec, but this is just interesting looking at the whole concept of, start with terrorism. People can use cars, people can use bicycles, people can use anything that they want for purposes other than which they are intended.
Yep.
But does that mean you necessarily have to regulate them in such a way that's going to inconvenience the rest of the world, the good law-abiding citizens, and make it harder for them?
The regulators will, because that's their job.
Anyway, let me move on. The third one, a lawsuit was recently filed in Austin federal court challenging Texas's current drone laws. Oops, we'll play that again. Take two. Let's go.
A lawsuit was recently filed in Austin federal court challenging Texas' current drone law that makes it a crime for journalists to use drones for news gathering purposes.
ABC 7's Maria Serrano spoke to one of the three plaintiffs, the National Press Photographers Association, about the reason behind it. She joins us live in studio now with more. Maria?
Well, the plaintiffs, which include the National Press Photographers Association, the Texas Press Association, and an independent journalist, argue that our state's drone law is among the most restrictive in the country, and they claim it's not only a violation of the First Amendment, but also the 14th.
Now, this is a much longer story, and we'll just leave it there, but the main thing that's interesting to look at there, even using a drone for news gathering purposes, it's now illegal to use a drone for that purpose in the US, in that state. That's the bill that they've got before them.
Well, this is the challenge again, because each state's going to have its laws, and we're going to have each council having its laws as well. Again, though, what's going to be interesting is that making it illegal is, do they control the airspace? What you're going to find is, as every jurisdiction, whether it's a council, a state, authority, whoever it is that thinks they own the rights to the air is going to have to challenge the Constitution, an international level Constitution, to see about the sky. Now, when you're launching from an area, that's different. If you actually got the thing touched on the ground, you're going to launch. But the sky itself is a different matter. So there's some challenges to go here. And here's what we're going back to now with JARIS and SORA. If we get some standardisation in rules and procedures across the world, then perhaps councils can just say, look, we adopt the JARIS. Mind you, there's a lesson here. Those people, those councils that and states that hold back this technology will miss out. They will get caught, left behind. And that's going to be an interesting thing, watching that play out as well. It's like the first time that we had motor cars, these things are dangerous. Let's ban them, let's not have them. So we're going to see that roll over all over again.
Yeah. So speaking of all of that, at the moment, drones are also used for good things. Drones have saved the lives of at least 279 people, according to DJI, when they announced that at AirWorks 2019. That amazing statistic shows just how important drones have been. Now, there's a much, much, much longer video. I'll just leave it playing in the background while we chat about it, but drones have absolutely incredible applications.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. When you're going to have, going back and combining the two stories together, where are we going to go when we have, a person who could have been saved by a drone carrying a defibrillator or life-saving technology? And they're going to go back to the people that said, well, drones are illegal here in this state. You're going to see some interesting things that are going to play out over this as well.
I mean, particularly if you have a look, you can't use drones for news gathering purposes. If that was the case, there are many, many times where news agencies have uncovered or found things that would have otherwise not made it into the public eye. And
yeah, of course. I mean, it's a known fact that eyes on, many, if you like, law enforcement agency use news feed as a source of information. It's just part of their information gathering. So having a news helicopter, if you like, has always provided information to law enforcement and first responders as well. People watch it that way. So eyes in the sky is going to certainly increase safety. In many cases, there may be a case for the future where all aircraft, or many aircraft stream and make available like a YouTube channel their footage for all sorts of purposes, hopefully good and bad, will be used.
So I'm going to move on to something a little bit crazy now, and there's the invisible drone patent. So a patent is available for sale, which allegedly includes details of devices to, quote, greatly reduce the visibility of a drone or an airplane. The details claim that the patent owner can create devices of varying complexity and quality.
I love it.
You can buy this patent for between $50 and $500.
Oh, really? $50, hey?
$50, and you can have an invisible drone. I just couldn't resist putting that up as a story. Brett, you're still in the background here. We went a little bit crazy with the start of the show with the internet, but what do you reckon? Would you like an invisible drone?
How would I ever do line of sight? How would that work?
I left you the opening there and you picked it up hook, line and sinker.
Yeah. That's just crazy. Absolutely great nuts. Why would you want to anyway?
Well, so you can fly over the top of the runway with your invisible drone so that then they can't see it and then they won't shut down the airport.
Right. Okay.
There's another great idea.
Yeah, top idea.
Anyway, moving on from that one. Next story on the list, the military drones. The number of news stories about drones, army and military related, has increased as a result of developments in the Middle East. In the UK, one firm has been developing their own drone technology for use in combat, and this is it. Now, this was just something cool that I thought I'd share with you all.
Yeah, look at that.
Now, this looks like it's out of a sci-fi movie. I mean, we've all seen those kind of dual track kind of things, but have a look at what happens next.
Yeah.
You've got 2 rows of 4 little mini drones that you can get out of those things to do reconnaissance and checking out what's around you, and then you've got your nice big guns on top to go and start hitting them. And unlike in years gone by when you go out into battle and you've got to try and reposition to go and hit your target, you put the drone over the top of your target and you can find out if you're hitting it or missing it and use that as a tool.
Yep. Absolutely.
Now, we're not a military show, but I just thought this was a cool piece of tech. Anyway, we'll leave that one there. What do you think? Useful in a battlefield?
Well, you know, if someone was shooting at me, I'd want to have anything I could have.
It kind of reminds me of the bomb disposal robots.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
shotguns they put on them.
They really look like that,
them,
don't they?
It looks like them, absolutely.
Which started off as radio-controlled cars and tanks, of course. You know, the tech just added to it. So, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. We got a couple more quick stories to knock off, and then in the IT world, attackers use brute force attacks to guess passwords by trying all possible combinations. In the drone world, Anduril has taken brute force attacks in a different direction as a defensive measure against drone attacks. Now, many of you will have seen this story previously on Ken's show or a few others, but John, have you seen this one yet?
No, I haven't seen this.
Yeah, so basically as a defensive countermeasure against drones, they have this ramming drone and it literally just goes and guides itself to ram it. It doesn't have endurance, but it does have speed and force. It's able to ascend very, very fast, knock it down and then come down and land safely.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. Well, you know, even if it doesn't survive it, you know, that's a countermeasure that I hadn't really considered much of, really. We've seen birds, nets, other, you know, radio jamming and all sorts of other things, but I've not seen that one. Again, you know, we'll have a lot of regulatory problems. You know, if you wouldn't want to have it mistake an aircraft for a drone, you know, that would be a problem. A light aircraft, perhaps, but how much damage it would do, we still don't know. Anyway,
in terms of the technology, it has some AI, so the human goes and says, "There's my target over there. Please go and destroy that target." And once it's locked on, it's got some AI to go and do the hard work for it.
Look, I got no problems with it because I don't fly where I'm not supposed to, you know, so I don't believe I'd have much problem with it. But for countermeasures for airports and everything, that's probably a good one. You know, it's certainly quick and easy, isn't it? You know, and looking at radar these days worth millions and millions of dollars now that they're looking for to try and detect. You've still got to try and detect the aircraft, of course, and that's the biggest one. That's the biggest problem, is that you could, you know, most days you could fly around an aircraft and at low level at an airport and not get even picked up at all. So that the detection is a problem, but I think it's a good countermeasure. I don't need a problem with it, but I'd love to see what people think. You know.
Yeah, comment in the chat what you think about that. Is it an appropriate countermeasure for drones at airports and other sensitive sites? Do you support the use of that type of technology? I read where the company is also heavily involved in border protection and other military applications. So I believe they're doing some stuff in the US on the border patrol kind of area there as well. But again, links in the description if you want to read more about that. Our last story of the day, an Airbus Zephyr high-altitude pseudo satellite, HAPS, it has crashed while on a test flight in Australia, marking the second crash this year.
That's up in Winton. I know that aircraft.
That's the second crash this year. The UAS was being launched from an airstrip, as you said, in Wyndham, Australia, when the crash occurred. Previously this year, another Zephyr crashed after experiencing turbulence on takeoff.
Yeah, it's one of the big things. I mean, I've followed this aircraft development for a while, and it's just remarkable. I mean, it's incredible what it does and the sensors it carries, but it's very, very subject to weather and turbulence. And it's flying at, once it gets up higher to 60,000 feet and higher than 60,000 feet, there's a lot less weather for it to deal with. It's dealing with massive low temperatures, of course, but not so much wind and turbulence. But it's got to get up there, and the takeoff part and climbing through, the lower levels of the atmosphere is very dangerous for it, and they just haven't sorted that out yet. But wow, that's a satellite replacement. It's got 1,000 nautical mile range when it's at altitude. That's 500 miles each way. It can see. And the benefit, this thing, I mean, the companies that have set it up have got a base in Wyndham, up there in the remote West Australia, and so they're flying over international waters, so they can fly. They've got less restrictions in terms of what they're doing with it. It's a great spot to fly. I'd love to go there. I'd love to go there and see it. I believe it's a closed base, but it's a huge aircraft, massive in scale. And 3 or 4 people can pick the whole thing up. It's incredible.
Yeah. So that one's Airbus, and they advise that they've informed the authorities and initiated investigation. They don't yet have a timetable when they can communicate further. But as you said, it's designed to provide pseudo-satellite capabilities. The drone is very, very lightweight. It's 25-metre wingspan, and it can stay up, as you said, for quite extended periods. Really nice piece of tech.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. So we've gone a little bit out of order today when the internet dropped. So I'm kind of off my game with all of that happening. But Brett, is there anything else you wanted to add into the discussion about our news stories today, since you're still here?
Just that last one, it really looks very flimsy. Any sort of storm weather or anything, I think, would really harm it. And I guess that's why it's crashing, is it?
Yeah, pretty much it, mate. They can only fly it. They can only take off and land in virtually calm conditions. So, but what the idea is, it can, the thing stays up for days, and days and days. So what they do is they look at the weather patterns and they try and get it. It takes 12 hours to get to altitude.
Oh wow!
And climbing, and then it's got solar powered. So they've almost got the tech now where it can just stay up there for weeks and weeks. And so the takeoff and landing is very, very dangerous. Losing an aircraft like that worth that much money must just be heartbreaking.
Yeah, all the work that goes into it.
Flimsy, interesting. It's very, very fragile, but it has to be to do what it does and to fly on solar power for that long. It has to be incredibly light. Mind you, that they're using balsa. I mean,
old days.
Yeah, that's right. Still there's not a better structure, and a lot of carbon fiber and composite material, I believe, as well. So it's an incredible aeroplane.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just having a read of some of the messages in the chat room there. Thunderbird 6 is saying, what if it falls on someone? It's just another drone. It has the forces of gravity, and if it falls, it will hit someone or something.
It might be asking, Hannah, how does that work in a regulatory space? I mean, I know if you check the NOTAMs, you can see they clear the airspace when it has an actual, there's an authority for it. So when it's climbing up to altitude, they divert passenger aircraft around it. It's actually not on a trunk route. If you have a look, I might, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I can dig out some screenshots of where it is and how it operates. But you can look it up, the Zephyr. Look it up and have a read. It's pretty amazing.
I think it'd be interesting as a kind of a feature spot to dig into a little bit more. I think, especially from the perspective of satellite coverage and being able to, replace satellites, be at a low altitude, be able to, if there's a natural disaster in an area, all of a sudden bring in some special communications using some of that. That's really cool. Good application.
It's got the wingspan of a commercial jet. If you put that beside a Mavic Mini, there is, there is where we are in Ausby Drone. That's the scope of the unmanned aerial systems industry, from a Mavic Mini to a Zephyr.
Yeah. Reading from Zeb Mead, he says, if it falls in lightweight pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a point.
Yeah.
Won't really come down very quickly, will it?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, the chat's not coming up on the screen today, so I'll just keep monitoring it from time to time. So useful information. That's the end of the news today, and we're going to move straight into our next segment, which is the FPV Korner. So let's go and play the clip. This one is from Pinky FPV and Sam SAAMBR. Have you heard of Samba, however you say that?
No, I haven't. No.
So this was the Samba Air Show in 2019. Wherever that is, I don't know.
That's some really skilled flying right there, man, I can tell you. That is really good. I haven't been able to do that. I've tried a couple of times, but that's some good flying. You almost need to plan it. You've got the flaps down on the fixed wing to slow it down a little. That's remarkable. Yes, come on. Fly backwards in front of it. Come on.
Come on, do an orbit around it.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, look, it's so close. That's great. That's remarkable.
Would you think the two pilots have to be talking to each other?
Oh, totally. I think so, you know. I mean...
3 pilots, 2 pilots. What about 3?
Yeah. Look at the 3D
3
guys.
now.
Look at that. That's incredible. Mind you, there's so much turbulence. You look at the smoke. There's a lot of turbulence around aircraft when they're doing that. Yeah, nice shot. Nice shot. And look at the setting. Where's the site, Greg? Where's the site?
The only info I've got is it says SAAMBR Air Show.
South Australia, perhaps?
South Australia Aero Modelers something. Yeah, that's a model aircraft club.
Yeah.
It's not in South Australia though. It's in East Queensland.
Oh.
Nice, beautiful, beautiful shot, beautiful colour. Rolling circle. Yeah, 3D pivot. Tail stand, look at that. And around going the other way, yeah, that's cool. Whoa!
Little close.
Whoa!
What the?
There you go, there's petrol there. They're getting harder to see now with the smoke. I want to know what quad it is.
Well, after the show, jump into the description. We got a link to the channel, Pinky FPV.
Yeah, right.
He didn't say in the description for this particular video, but
it's sure not an Inspire, I can tell you that.
nah.
No.
But you look at the images. Look at the actual quality of the video. It's beautiful. It's got to have a GoPro slung on it.
Yeah,
It's
4K GoPro.
a racing quad with a GoPro on it, but you know, it's so smooth for it's obviously not gimbaled, but the flying is so smooth.
So what we're going to do just after the FPV Korner, I'm going to ask people in the YouTube chat room, type in some questions or topics you wouldn't mind to have a chat about. We're going to have a quick little free-form chat discussion about whatever it is that you want to talk about. Then we'll go into our Explore Australia and call it for today. But Northeast, Matt North is saying that he thinks it's a Tello. I don't think so.
Yeah, right. I don't think so either.
And Above and Beyond is saying, darn your internet. Yeah, well, Not much we can do. Welcome to Australia, the third world internet country. Wayne King is saying, do we really have a problem with drones around airports, or is it only hearsay?
Well, no, it's not hearsay because there's data to show it now. The aeroscope system that CASA have got at Mascot is tracking up to 8 incursions a day. So it's a problem. But mostly people don't know. They're not necessarily doing anything, other than just taking off in their backyard and flying up to height. But we've seen some pretty high altitudes, up to 3,000 feet, for some aircraft. So it's pretty full on.
Let me restate the question. Is it really a problem in terms of being a safety hazard versus a regulatory breach?
Well, it's a big sky theory. In days when model airplanes were flying around airports, they were in visual line of sight, and now you didn't have a camera on board. But they were flying well above 400 feet, all over the place, within controlled airspace. But it wasn't a problem. The airplanes weren't going. Even if you're at 1,000 feet, the airplanes weren't that low. And the problem with having a modern quadcopter, if you like, is you've got a camera, so you can follow an airplane if you want to. I mean, that's something in the sky you can go and look at, and that's where the issues arrive, where people do things that are stupid, wanting to take photos of aircraft and getting close to them. So yeah, that's a safety issue. It's got to be, and we don't know. We can still say, well, a jet engine will just swallow it and spit it out. They hit birds all the time. They hit things that are but just because airliners hit birds all the time doesn't mean that that's not an issue. In aviation, birds are a serious safety issue, and lots of money's been spent on protecting the aircraft and making it resilient to those kind of things. Heavy rain, bird strike, all sorts of stuff. Aviation spent its virtual existence trying to make itself safe. So now we've got a new thing in the sky that we've got to look at that might be a hazard. And so that's what it is. It's a real hazard. There's no doubt about it. And they're there. So, we just implore everybody to do the right thing. Don't do stupid stuff and fly around airports.
Okay. The second one we got here is the bill to possibly become an act in the US regarding not being allowed to buy or use Chinese drones by US government agencies. You heard about that one?
Yeah, I have. Again, I don't know where the political minefield here is between China and America. You look at the new American drone, the Skydio, has come out, and the first line in its advertising is "Made in America." If I think there's a case that perhaps in the US and Chinese political and trade wars, they might ban all Chinese aviation products, from China. That'll be interesting. See what happens then.
Yeah,
DJI might go offshore.
This is a personal viewpoint. I think there were problems in the earlier days with the way that DJI software was put together, but they've come a long way. And if it was purely about safety and security, there's ways that government agencies can use the existing DJI product without any safety or security concerns.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely more political, definitely more trade-related as the motivation behind it. Is it the right thing to do for those reasons? Well, why not just say, we don't want you to sell your product here because we want to make our own. Let's just be honest about it. That's really what's happening. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the same deal. Well, the rest of the world, there's plenty of American guns throughout the world. America believes they should be able to trade their guns throughout the world and sell them where they like, and then it's up to the regulator to decide how it's done. But I think if push comes to shove, it'd be really interesting. It'd be a bit of a cry out if it said, well, that's it. You can't export firearms anymore. You know, we're not going to let you sell your guns throughout the world. And that's what they're saying. They're going to say to China, isn't it? They're going to say, no, you can't sell your drones. So, you know, let's see what happens. Mind you, I don't never like making comparisons with drones and guns. I don't think it's a fair comparison.
Yeah, I agree. Question from Nick: do seasons change in Australia, or is it always hot? It's definitely not always hot.
No. Jen, we could take you some places where it's cold. Go down to Canberra on a July morning, and or a place like Burra or Blaney, where the wind comes down off the mountains. There are colder places in the world, that's for sure. And
the Skydio 2. So Grumpy is saying, what do you think about the Skydio 2? Have you had much of a look at it, John?
I haven't looked at it, and I'm going to make an effort not to rubbish it from the beginning, because I don't think until you've flown the aircraft and you've had a look at what it produces. So be honest with you, no, I haven't even seen one yet, and I don't think they're not fully released, are they yet? Are they out in the stores? But to answer Grumpy's question, you know, there's a lot of stuff there, tech that they're missing. It hasn't got any OcuSync type range. It's not going to have the same life in terms of battery life or range and endurance. So, you know, if it goes the way of the GoPro Karma or any of those other aircraft, who knows? I mean, I'm going to give you a counter thought, because there's been a lot of discussion by a lot of YouTubers about it. Those two things that you mentioned are factors, but I think it's certainly got a lot of other things that DJI is behind on. They're not innovating and thinking about what's next. The obstacle avoidance technology that they've got in there, combined with the following, the tracking and all of that kind of stuff, I think is definitely next generation and where the industry should be going. How does it work though, Greg? I love the hype of saying this is our special one. We're going to have obstacle avoidance. We're going to have an intelligent. I've seen the videos of the comparison of how this aircraft can track around trees and so forth. You know what?
How does it work? I actually had a chat with someone earlier today who's been, you know, researching it far more than me, and he was commenting that I think it was 6 cameras on the drone, which are 270-degree cameras, and you've got a graphics processor on board, which is going and stitching that all together. Instead of the lower resolution cameras on some of the traditional quads we've been playing with, it's now got a high-res map of everything that's around it and using that for the obstacle avoidance. And the second thing that's really cool is the ability to have the little fob tracker that's with someone who's on a bike or on a boat or whatever it is, they're going around and doing some stuff, and it's sending its GPS coordinates. So tracking is easy because it doesn't have to follow it, right? It knows where you are. You're telling it where you are. But put that together with the obstacle avoidance, that's when the two things come together and mesh together very well for some really creative stuff.
I can't wait to see it. I really, the videos I've seen look very exciting for that, you know, that product, what it might do. For the aerial cinematographer, you know, let's just see. I don't know what Brett might think. I mean, his game is really taking beautiful aerial images. He doesn't need to maybe necessarily have it chase him while he's on a mountain bike around trees. It's horses for courses, maybe. What do you think, Brett?
Yeah, I agree. I'm Johnny looking for landscapes. So chasing someone on a bike like myself, never going to happen anyway. But yeah, it's not something I'm into. It's more just the landscapes for me. See what Mother Nature has for us.
Yeah.
I think so it's again, like it's an action drone.
That's a fair comment, you know, and so caused a few.
Yeah. It's an action drone. It's the difference.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's an action drone. Yeah.
I'm well past the action stage.
No action for you.
No, certainly not.
It's very different to DJI drones. Skydio being giving it to motorsport and leisure, yada, yada, yada. Someone's looking at the unique. How does putting a beacon in your pocket and riding off with it following you work legally? Is it line of sight when behind, etc.? Very good question, Geeks Vana. From a regulatory perspective, if you can't see it, you're not flying legally. But then the question is, does the control have enough capability to say you're actually piloting the drone from that little beacon
This is where CASA has a problem with autonomy and autonomous flying. So
In
automated
Australia,
flying or autonomous flying.
Yeah, in Australia, it wouldn't make the requirements because autonomous flying is not approved at this point in Australia.
No, but here's the thing. There is a pilot in the loop. So CASA will come down and say, as long as someone can say, you have to land now, or you have some type of control, then you are the pilot. You've just asked it to do an automated function, which is duck around trees and fly itself. What is
the minimum level of control you need to not be an autonomous flight? Do you
not be able to stop it?
Okay,
you know what I mean. If and you can take the beacon out of your pocket and say land, and it will do it. It's not going to. It's making a lot of the control decisions, but there is a bottom line there, absolutely, in terms of a controller of some kind. Even controlling it with your hands is okay. In terms of signals, even if the aircraft, to be fully autonomous, has to decide it's going to take off and land on its own. That's one that would cross that line. But it's still a remotely piloted vehicle. It's just highly automated, not autonomous, highly automated.
Okay. Look, there's been some good discussion and some good chatting about some of the things in the chat room today, and thank you very much for that. And we're reaching close to the end of the show. Let's go with our Explore Australia segment for today.
My favourite.
So as always, all of our clips are, we have the channel details in the description for the video. Encourage you each and every time to go and check those channels out. Go and let the channels know that you saw them here. Just as Victorian Aerial Vision was picked, and he's here now, we'd love to have you on as a guest as well. This first one is from Flight.11 is the name of the channel, and he's flying a DJI Spark. This one is at Lake Canola Fields. It's a wind farm area, and as I said, flying his DJI Spark. I'm just reading the comment from Grumpy there. It's not an old fart's drone, the Skydio 2. It's a young person's drone. Definitely the case. Our second video from Drone Zone 601. The title of this one, Burra Ruins, the Midnight Oil House. The ruins are located on Cobb & Co Corner, Burra, South Australia. The ruins were featured on the album cover of Midnight Oil's Diesel and Dust record. Definitely an iconic Australian shot.
Yeah, that's great.
Nature Films Australia 4K is the next one. It's a DJI Mavic being used to shoot this one.
This one is awesome.
Yeah, this one's a bay in King Island, Australia. And he says this is his best drone footage of 2019.
It's one of the most amazing places in our country too, King Island. Out in the middle of Bass Strait down in the south. And if you want to know where somewhere's cold, that's a cold place. And windy. Look at that, that's beautiful. Very, very remote. There is an airstrip there, you can fly there, and you can also go by a fishing trawler. Interesting fact about King Island is they don't have any locksmiths.
Okay.
No one locks their house.
Yeah.
One of the things about living, no one locks their property or their car. There ain't nowhere to go.
That shot's just fantastic.
Isn't that beautiful? And that one
But
too,
you know,
look at that.
As I'm looking at some of those shots, right, the mirror shots, absolutely beautiful, but a number of the other things, people often fly at height and at altitude, but watching some of the lower altitude shots, absolutely gorgeous. People, in my opinion, fly too high a lot of the time.
How are those birds not being spooked by the aircraft? That's what's interesting. I might be standing on the shore.
You know,
That's
there was
great.
another video clip I had today of something that didn't make the final cut for the news. Speaking of animals getting spooked. Actually, let me come back to that. Let me tell you about the next one first. This is Jassy Singh and DJI drone footage from a private farm in Victoria, Australia, shot with a DJI Phantom 4 Pro. So as we watch that, back to my story, there was a clip that didn't make the news cut, and there was this drone that got a little bit too close to someone who was on a donkey, and the person got tossed off the donkey, and we've got the drone footage of that. So yeah, make sure you don't get too close to animals and wildlife, especially if it's got a person riding on it as well. Above and beyond saying swans are tough, they'll come after you. Again, just a reminder, all of this footage put together each and every week by Greg Hilton. He does an incredible job at putting it together.
Agent K's asking for that donkey clip.
I love the sunset kind of flaring on that last shot there. Pete Batty in southwestern Australia, drone footage of his, some highlights from the stunning southwest of Western Australia. The donkey clip, look, all we need to do is get Lloyd on and we've got the donkey in the room, so. As always, I said it before at the beginning of this section, please do go to the description during or after the show and click on the links. Say hello to the people, let them know that you saw them here on Oz by Drone, and invite them to come over and be part of our little community, and perhaps to be a guest at some point as well. Now I'm going to ask you all watching today one other favour. If you've enjoyed the show today, make sure you click that thumbs up button, let other people know, and thanks for your comment, Grumpy, bite me Greg, yep. Two-legged donkey. Give it the thumbs up. Give it the thumbs up if you think Lloyd Mendenhall is definitely a donkey. And after the show, after YouTube's finished processing it, it really dropped out today. We may need to re-upload it as well, so don't forget to put a comment on that one as well.
Look at how blue that water is.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it?
For me, this is the relaxing part of the show where you just get to sit back and enjoy. I mean, earlier on, we're going through all of these news and interviewing, and I just get to sit back and enjoy it. I love it. That's why I keep it to the end of the show, to keep everyone waiting to want to see it and also to relax at the end.
I was going to mention too, Greg, some people will comment too, we're on daylight savings now in Australia, which will change the time for other folks. Is that right? Do we get that right?
Absolutely correct. And we announced that last weekend. We let people know about it. I put out an announcement in the community page a little bit earlier today as well. So
good. Okay.
Hopefully they got that bit right.
Well, we'll have more daylight here now, more usable daylight perhaps in the evening. So we'll probably get some more footage as our summer
and some
approaches.
more flying time. More flying time.
More flying time.
So as we reach the end today, just a reminder, upload at gregkuhnert.com if you've got something you'd like to share with us. Just as Brett from Victorian Aerial Vision did, he sent a link and I had a look at it and I said, come and be our guest. So please do that as well yourself. And if you'd like to follow us on social media, our YouTube channel, our Twitter channel, our Facebook channel, now we're on a bunch of others as well, Twitch and DLive and a few others. Please do follow us, give us a thumbs up, comment, like, follow, all of those kind of things. And if you've got anything that you would like to send physically, 5/127 Princes Highway, Sylvania, New South Wales 2224. Any last comments, Brett, before we head off?
No, just thank you for having me, mate, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Absolutely. John?
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Great show.
Okay. We'll leave it there today. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being part of our community. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.